We're seeing phenomenal numbers in terms of the business we do with other countries and the business we do within our own country. I mean, really phenomenal numbers. We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous, what she announced, but that was just one negative number. All of the numbers seem to be great. And so we'll see how that comes out. And if you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers on Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So it's a scam, in my opinion. My opinion is it's just additional scam. Fired her because we didn't believe the numbers today. Even though interest rates are too high, we have a terrible head of the Fed. He keeps interest rates too high. And I could understand that, but I don't believe those numbers. I think because we're doing so well. Because I think her numbers were wrong, just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election. So you know what I did? I fired her. Right. And you know what? I did the right thing. We need people that we can trust.
Donald Trump fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner just on Friday because he didn't like how his failures are being displayed through true facts and actual numbers, because that's how fascists work. They control narratives, and when the narratives don't fit their agenda, which is to control and destroy this entire country for the sake of him making more money and giving it off to his oligarchs and cover up all of his scandals, if that doesn't work, then what's left is to get rid of the people who are exposing you with basic, straightforward facts. Whenever fascists do things like this, what they need is people to back them up and change what reality is so that other folks can believe them. And of course, they went to Fox News to do that.
People rely on these job numbers, and they have, been a mess in over the past year plus.
Absolutely. These numbers are critical not only to the United States, but global markets and have global implications. There is a credibility issue right now. Imagine every day you go in to do your job, you have to file one big report every month. And every month after that, you have to go back and fix it. I can't imagine you'd keep your job very long. And if the issue was the information you were given to have that report done, that was the problem. You should have addressed it before. There is a totality of breakdown of information here, and the president is finally holding somebody accountable. We need to trust the numbers the government is putting out, and when it gets revised every month, there are absolutely questions that should be answered, and this should be fixed, because we shouldn't have to question what is actually happening with the job market in the United States.
We shouldn't have to question what's happening with the job market in the United States, of course, but when you fire people and say, I need to put my personal lackeys in place to make sure those job numbers fit whatever agenda I want, they ignore the fact that the vast majority of Americans would no longer trust the job numbers that this fixed administration would then put out. As independent agencies continue to get dismantled and completely taken apart and fired of all the people who do normal work, that's the kind of thing that sows distrust in all of these institutions. And as that distrust is sown in those institutions, people then stop trusting everything that happens within the government. It's all projection. It's consistent. So that's why after these numbers could come out, this is the type of numbers that Donald Trump would probably like to have on anything. This is the way he would pitch numbers and expect people to believe it.
Well, one of the things they're going to be talking about pretty soon are the tremendous drop in drug prices. We've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%. I don't mean 50%. I mean 1,400, 1,500%.
How do you drop drug price numbers by 1,500%? You're just making up numbers. How is it he jumped from 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%? It's cartoonish, and this is what happens when you have to put lackeys in place that don't base it on any kind of actual evidence or any kind of studies or any kind of actual work. What it is making things up. And you become a cartoon presidency like fascists would. The way that we talked before about Kim Jong-un, or maybe it was his dad, who bowled a 300 game in bowling every time. Just like this liar probably golfs a perfect game every time. I mean, hole in one on every hole. This is the way fascists work. Go ahead, cheat in solitaire, bro. But the thing is, nobody would actually care if you weren't trying to control everyone's lives with that same kind of approach to the way that you I guess you can say govern. And by the way, that was him talking about drug prices. This is the way that it would be delivered. Caroline Levitt showed this like some kind of 2-year-old in a show and tell about how this is this policy that's put forward. It's very similar to that tariff policy that's also sucking.
Stands ready to assist with implementation questions. Thank you for your immediate attention to this vital national priority. Signed, President Donald J. Trump. Again, to the CEO of Eli Lilly. This letter, in its form, has been designed for each of the 17 major drug and pharmaceutical companies in the United States, and we're happy to provide you the full list. And I believe you will see all 17 letters popping on Truth Social very shortly, so you can look out for those.
I have a letter, and the letter's from Donald Trump. Donald Trump sent it to all of these executives and said he demands them to do what he wants. And then that'll just happen. Similar to the letter to Mr. Japan, demanding that they do what he wants. And after some of those folks in other countries then respond and say, sure, yeah, we'll do all that stuff. None of that's in place. There's no way this is actually going to happen. No trade deals have been signed, just tariff letters. So the same opportunity to try and fool people into believing because his scribble scrabble signature is at the bottom of a piece of paper that is some kind of binding contract that people are going to listen to, that people who are overcharging us because of our policies are put in place to allow them to overcharge us for things like drugs and prescription drugs in this particular case, that just because he writes a letter, it's all going to change. It's to make people think so while they're still getting screwed. Let's go back to the subject at hand, though. Going back to the way that they fired this commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Kevin Hassett, this is the way he approached trying to talk about firing this woman who doesn't even have much a role in changing these things, which we'll get to in a second. But watch Kevin Hassett.
So there was a statement out by a number of former BLS commissioners, including the one that President Trump had in his first term, and they said it's not good to cast aspersions on what's being done because it's a formula. It's used the same way every single time. So are you saying maybe the formulas, the calculations need to change? What would you do differently?
Right. That's right. They have to get back to ground zero and look at why the numbers have started to be so unreliable, and why did the numbers not really pick up the gig economy and so on. But again, to put it in perspective, over the last, or I'll go back to COVID, pretty much the numbers were really reliable until COVID, and then during COVID, the numbers got very unreliable. They got revised all the time, all over the place. But we kind of understand why that would happen because people aren't really filling out surveys and so on. But what happened then is that after COVID, the big revisions kept happening. And so right now we've got BLS numbers that aren't really a lot better than they were during COVID, and we need to understand why. And so I think that the president's right to call for new leadership. I think Erica's a terrific person, but I think that it's time for someone to get in there and fix this because these numbers are so crucial. These numbers are absolutely, in my talk back in 2015, I talked about how the data can't be propaganda. The data has to be something that you could trust.
These numbers can't be propaganda. Listen for the projection. The numbers have become propaganda as he tries to install some kind of a loyalist that'll do nothing but what he needs them to do to make himself look great when things are actually horrible. They tell you their plan. They just heap it on the people that they're saying are doing it. Then suddenly, this entire process that he trusted before it's a mess. It's rigged. It's set up. How come it wasn't rigged and set up before? As a matter of fact, someone already asked Kevin Hassett that question. As I said, he looks like a fool every time he goes on TV.
President Trump himself was happy to accept the jobs numbers issued under McIntyre's leadership when the numbers were good. Take a listen to what he said in the past.
The numbers were much better, as you know, than projected by the media.
In 3 months, we have created 350,000 jobs. Think of that.
A lot of jobs are being created. That's what happened this morning. You saw the jobs.
So is the president prepared to fire anyone who reports data that he disagrees with?
No, absolutely not. The president wants his own people there so that when we see the numbers, they're more transparent and more reliable. And if there are big changes and big revisions, we expect more big revisions for the jobs data in September, for example, then we want to know why. We want people to explain it to us.
More transparent and more reliable. Somehow him putting his people in place that he literally said, I need someone that's going to tell me what I need to do, what I need to make me look better. Somehow that's more transparent and more reliable. How transparent has this administration been? They also promised transparency on the Epstein files. That's not happening. Transparency on the job market. That's not happening. Transparency on these foreign negotiations for ending all the wars, which haven't been ended yet. In fact, he's enhanced. None of that has happened. Where's this transparency and dependency? Because none of it is dependable. None of it is transparent. I'm trying to figure out why they think that people can just listen to these things that they say that are completely in opposition to our reality and think that enough people will believe them. Kevin Hassett also went on CNBC, and I think he thinks that as some kind of a location where he can be more honest about how things look, and that folks who watch him on Fox Business and Fox News won't also switch over to CNBC and see how he acknowledges how bad the job numbers actually were.
The market seemed to believe the revisions in the numbers more than they believed the original numbers. That's why you saw bond yields tumble on Friday. Are you in agreement with that? Do you think we are starting to see a real slowdown in the jobs market?
Yeah, I think the jobs numbers were slower than we expected. I think that one of the explanations for revisions is they have more complete data. And so I think it is likely that the revisions are a better read of the data if the data are not being manipulated. And so, yeah, I would say that it's a little bit weaker. But don't forget, this is before the big, beautiful bill is really kicking in. And so with our eyes on the horizon, we're highly optimistic about the future of this economy. We've got the big, beautiful bill. We've got expensing of factories, got no taxes on tips. We've got incomes going up $10,000 for a typical family. And we've got all of that happening while the budget deficit's declining rapidly because of the tariff revenue. And so there are a lot of really good reasons to be super optimistic about the second half of the year. But absolutely, that jobs number, if the revision turns out to be true, does suggest that there's less momentum than we thought. And you could say that the dissenters at the Fed saw this coming. They specifically mentioned that there were signs of labor market weakening. They were pointing, I think, to the ADP release as much as anything. And so, yeah, I think that the pressure on the Fed to get its policy in order is going to be higher because of this. And that's, proving that the president was right about it.
He said when it comes to the stock market response, because that was the question that was being asked, he then acknowledged that those revisions are a better read of the data. They're bitching and complaining right now about the revisions. That's what they're so upset about. The revisions to the data showed that there was this huge drop in the job market, that the expected numbers were in June even were 250,000 less than what they were expecting. On Fox News and Fox Business, he talks about how that's all fake and we got to put someone in place that's going to do things the right way. But for some reason on CNBC, he acknowledges that the data could be correct, and that's why things at the Fed need to be changed, like lowering interest rates. Don't forget, for the past couple weeks, maybe months, Donald Trump has been going after Jerome Powell, head of the Fed, for not lowering interest rates because things are so great. Kevin Hassett just went on TV and said, we need to lower the rate at the Fed because things are so Which one is it, bro? Which one is it? So he admits it a little bit there for the sake of trying to have these lower Fed rates. That happens in a economy. They're arguing for that, but don't want to argue the shit economy. Weird how that works.